Hey, Adam here. Today I wanted to talk a bit about chemicals. When I say chemicals, I'm referring to things whose chemical properties are their defining characteristics. To clarify, let me use an example. The most important properties of a 2x4 are its dimensions and its strength. We don't really care as much about its chemical properties because they're fairly inert. It's a piece of wood. But when we talk about something like nail polish remover or Windex, it's very specifically the chemical properties of those things that we're after. We're looking for something that can dissolve nail polish or remove fingerprints from a window. So, when should we be worried about chemicals? When are chemicals dangerous? I've heard some maybe misleading tips. One of those is when you're looking at food, you should look at the ingredients. If you can't pronounce the ingredients, or if you don't know what the ingredients are, you shouldn't be eating them. But there's a problem with that. Have you ever heard of ethyl hexanoate? I hadn't until I started making this video. But ethyl hexanoate is in oranges. It's naturally occurring, and it's one of the things that gives oranges their citrusy scent. So just because you haven't heard of it before, or you don't know how to pronounce it, doesn't mean that it's necessarily dangerous. Even sometimes when you have heard of something before, like, say, ethanol. Ethanol goes in my gas tank. That's got to be harmful, right? But ethanol is also naturally occurring in oranges. Quantity matters a lot. A little bit of something may not be harmful to you, even if a lot of it would be. Sometimes we think that the smell of a quote chemical means that it's dangerous. That if a household cleaner smells strongly or whatever, that it probably means it's dangerous. But that may not be true either. Take, for example, carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is extremely dangerous, yet you can't see it or smell it or perceive it in any way. On the flip side, certain foods like Brussels sprouts are very healthy, but, at least in my opinion, smell terrible. So, just because something smells strongly doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. Well, maybe it matters where it comes from. If it comes from nature, it's good. And if it comes from some lab or is synthetically made or highly processed, it's bad, right? Again, that doesn't really work either. If you take something like poison oak is naturally occurring, and it's really bad for your skin. Then sunscreen is either highly refined or completely synthetic and is very good for your skin, protects you, and helps prevent cancer. So, whether it comes from nature or not, whether it smells strongly or not, whether it has a big, crazy, fancy name or not, those things don't actually help tell you whether or not a chemical is hazardous. So, how do you know? Well, unfortunately, that's a little outside what I can convey in this video. But let's just say you can learn. And I think that's really the point. Don't be afraid. When you hear something you haven't heard before, when you encounter a big fancy name, or maybe come across some chemical being used somewhere that you're not familiar with, rather than being afraid of it, learn about it. In many cases, you might be surprised.